What's up, you guys? Welcome to today's video. If you are new, my name is Jess. I'm a recovering addict who served time in prison. Today's video is going to be a story time involving my ex. He is going to tell his story. Now, this was a little bit challenging for me to film. I got emotional listening to him talk. I know that I contributed to his addiction in a major way, and hearing that back from someone else's perspective was a little bit hard. So that's what this video is going to be today. Please remember to stay kind and leave some encouraging words for Randy if you feel so inclined to do so. I know that would mean a lot to him. He is fresh out. He's been out of prison for 3 days. So I really appreciate that he took the time to share his story with us. We did 2 videos. This is the first one. It's just going to be him sharing his story about addiction and his thoughts on addiction. And then the next video that you guys will see coming up is a prison story time. He shares his views on prison corruption and his experience in the Department of Corrections. So, without further ado, let's get into today's video. What's up?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for meeting me today.
You're welcome.
Deadass could have said no and I would have understood.
I would never say no.
So I tell a lot of stories about Randy on my channel, and a lot of them are negative. So how does that make you feel, hearing me share all of our dirty laundry on the internet?
Yeah, there is a lot of negative stuff, but the past is the past. That's how I see it. You know, the situations that we go through are what make us who we are. Some of that makes us weaker, and some of that makes us stronger, but it gets us to where we are today, and today I'm comfortable with the way that things are.
That's great. How many days sober do you have?
161.
That's what's up, dog. That's awesome. I'm very happy for you. So this could be the first video that someone is watching, so why don't we just start at the beginning for you? Where did addiction start for you? When did you start using?
Addiction began for me probably around the age of 12. I think the first drug was probably marijuana, 12 years old or so. I had just moved to a new school district from Sydney to Unadilla, and the people that I started hanging out with immediately were all smoking weed. The first time I smoked was before football practice. We used to sneak away and just like go up on the hill and smoke.
So you were a football player?
I was.
Did you like playing football?
I did.
How long were you able to play football before addiction kind of just took it away?
Like after I started using?
Yeah.
Maybe 6 months. All I wanted to do after that was get high, and football practice became something that interrupted that time. So I kind of just gave it up to continue using, you know?
How long after you were smoking weed, how long after that before you got into the hard stuff?
It was quick. The increase in not only in use but in experimentation with other drugs was pretty fast. I tried LSD by the age of 13.
Damn.
The same year, probably cocaine and ecstasy. And at that point, drinking was pretty much an everyday thing.
Does addiction run in your family?
It does. My father was also an addict, IV user in the end, marijuana, cocaine, I'm sure many other drugs that I don't know about.
He passed away when you were how old?
When I was 19 years old. Truth.
Where were you at 19 when he passed away?
I was in Green Correctional Facility in New York State on my second prison term at 21 years old when he passed away in 2006. So
you're using LSD and ecstasy. Would you say that you had a genetic predisposition for addiction?
I do, and my belief behind that is that it's there, and when you first use it, kind of kicks it off, it sparks it.
You feed that.
Yeah. If I believe if somebody has it and they don't ever use, that obviously the urge is not there, you know? But when we do first, you know, initialize it and make that first use, it triggers it.
Yeah.
That's how I believe.
That's really what happened with me. You know, it started with alcohol, and I just fed that monster, and it just became alive. Something that was in me the entire time, my whole life, just was fed at that point. So you eventually became a heroin addict.
I did.
Walk me through that. How did that start?
Heroin didn't start. The first time I tried heroin, I was probably 22 years old in the year of 2007. I think I I sniffed it maybe 3 or 4 times at the age of 22, and then no other experience until the age of 25. I had just gotten out of prison and was walking down the street and saw Jessica, and yeah, we went back to her house, and that was my first experience ever seeing anybody else use intravenous injection. And I don't know, I wanted to get high, and it seemed like the best and the fastest way, being what I'd heard from it, and I tried it there for the first time, like August 1st, 2010.
How many breakups did we have at that point? It's a lot.
Yeah, 3 or 4, maybe.
3 or 4. Normal amount.
Yeah, long-term breakups, though.
Mm-hmm. So the first time you shot heroin, what did that feel like?
I can remember exactly every feeling. I didn't feel anything at first. It was a very small amount. I smoked a cigarette, and 5 minutes later I got up to leave, and it just hit me like a brick wall. I fell on my face and went into convulsions, and I thought I was gonna die. I asked my friend to go inside and get you, and you came outside. By that time I was, I think, up on my knees. You gave me a glass of water, and we sat down.
That's gonna help. I gave you water.
No Narcan, but water. We sat down and talked for a little bit, and I was all right. I was super high after that, but I think the almost overdose experience, I don't know if it's considered an overdose, but it didn't deter me at all. I was ready to get high again immediately.
So you weren't scared?
I wasn't at all. When I was on the ground shaking, I was scared, but I wasn't. I think the effects of the high were more attractive to me than anything I'd ever done, and
I understand that.
ODing again wasn't even in my mind.
Do you think dating a drug dealer made your addiction worse?
In a sense, because it was always available, and I didn't have to pay for it, you know. So if I would have left that day, if we would have parted ways that day, would I have used again? I would have to say probably. Would my addiction have gotten to where it went? Maybe not, but who's to say?
Yeah.
But it was definitely easier dating a drug dealer because it was always there, you know? The influence of watching you get high was also, you know, a big factor of my continuous use. Not the reason, but a factor, you know?
So, what did a normal day look like for you using heroin?
At the beginning?
Any day, just a typical day of using.
Wake up, use. I guess daily normal activities as far as dealing drugs went, you know, out and about, breaks during the day to get high, and, you know, eating kind of went out the window. I wasn't really taking care of my physical health. Other than that, I would have to say a normal life, other than the fact I was putting poison into my body, you know. At the beginning. At the end, I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to sell drugs. All I wanted to do was get high. There was never enough. You know, that was it. But things, it affected very big aspects of my life and our relationship. You know, behaviors became different, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That I didn't notice in the beginning.
Would you say that we were codependent?
Absolutely.
So what did that look like? How did codependency make your addiction worse? Is that hard? Is that a hard question?
It is a hard question. I don't know how it made it worse. I remember times that I knew I was getting sick. I had never been in that position before. I had never been addicted to anything other than marijuana and maybe cocaine a few years prior to that, but never a physical addiction like that. As far as the codependency, again, I remember times that I wanted to stop, and we argued about that a lot. It made me very angry at the beginning. Now, you know, 9 years later, And, you know, after me going through the same thing that I didn't know you were going through at that time, we argued about it. You didn't want to stop, and it caused me to keep using because you wouldn't stop. I thought that because if you kept using, I had to keep using. And
I don't remember any of that.
No?
No.
Bennettsville, you want to talk about that? Bennettsville, you woke up one morning and it got pretty sick, and I told you right there that I was going to take the rest of the dope and flush it down the toilet, and that was it, that we were going to stop right there. And you begged me to let you wean yourself off it. I was not okay with that, and you walked out the front door and proceeded to walk down the road. I let you go for about 10 or 15 minutes. I was just going to let you continue to keep going. If you wanted to ruin your life at that point, I wasn't going to let you drag me down with you. I guess then the love kicked in and I came after you. When I reached you on the road, I confronted you and begged you to turn around. At that point, you still wouldn't turn around, so I became more aggressive, and I stood in front of you and told you that you either had the choice to turn the fuck around, or I was gonna pick you up and carry you back to the fucking house. And am I cursing too much?
No, it's okay.
I don't know. I guess you made the decision to turn around with a little bit of physical force from me. I think I rammed you with the bicycle in your shins once or twice.
Awesome.
Got you back to the house. The next day or two, I think we might have got high once or twice, and that's when Des Moines came. I left 2 days later.
So, depending on when this video goes up, I shared a story of relapsing. We went to Iowa to try to be sober. So I will leave that in the description box down below. So go check that out.
Cool.
So at what point were you just like, at what point did you want to get sober? At what point were you done? You just couldn't handle it anymore?
For me?
Yeah.
That was very recently.
Yeah.
On opiates though, was about 6 or 8 months after the episode that we just spoke about. I got sober at that point. I think from that day forward, or maybe a day or two after that, I got sober for approximately 3 or 4 months when we went to Iowa. And then we came back to the same town and got right back into it. That lasted for a very short period of time of about 3 months. And I went to prison for 3 years for a crime that I committed.
What crime was it?
The crime was robbery in the second degree.
Is that your criminal history? Is it
My criminal history is very extensive. Mostly theft and burglary related crimes. That was an escalation though. I had never used a weapon at that point. But I did go to prison for 3 years for that crime. I did use opiates while I was in prison over that 3-year period.
So before we get into that, I want to understand your criminal background. Would you say that you committed crimes to get drugs, and your drug addiction fueled you to commit crimes? I don't know if I questioned that right.
When I was pretty young, it wasn't. I don't know if I'd say if it was drugs or not. You know, sometimes we committed crimes and we bought a bag of weed or a couple cases of beer. My addiction wasn't pushing me to do the crimes. Was
poverty pushing you to commit crime?
Not having money in my pocket was pushing me to commit crimes. Also to fit in. The guys I was hanging out with, you know, they were always stealing stuff. Dirt bikes, four-wheelers, breaking into businesses for liquor and beer. So yeah, I guess I would say that from the beginning my addiction definitely fueled my criminal activity.
Would you say you're a violent person? A violent offender?
Never at all. I have been arrested for weapons possession, and again, the robbery in the second.
Where a gun was used at a robbery?
Yeah, but no physical violence occurred.
Right.
No physical force, correct.
So what makes you want to stay sober?
Well, to finish up, whether or not addiction and my criminal behavior coincide with each other or feed off each other. If I was never getting high, I don't think I ever would have committed crime. In the end of my addiction, I had to commit crimes to get high.
Yeah.
So I was I relied very much on my ability to gain money in illegal ways.
So at the end of me living in New York, we had a pretty substantial debt over our head.
We did.
Did that ever worry? Were you ever concerned about this debt, this massive debt that we had? Actually, it was my debt.
In a sense, I was concerned. The only concern for me was if we didn't pay it, we wouldn't get any more drugs.
So you were never concerned about my safety? Be honest.
It's a tough question. I was concerned about your safety. To what lengths I would go to protect it are unanswerable. You know.
What does that mean?
I think I would do anything to protect you. I just think that my judgment was clouded at the time because of the opiate addiction. I wasn't thinking about your safety at that time.
Yeah.
I'll keep it real. You know, was it in the back of my mind? And at points, maybe when he made threats or we talked about it, then it was definitely at the front. But at any other time, the only thought was getting in the next bag. You know.
I tried to separate Randy from my dealings because my dealer specifically said I am not allowed to see Randy. You were a threat. You were a threat to the operation. You were a threat to our safety and getting caught. You're also a threat because you steal shit and you robbed me. So I had the potential of getting cut off. And for me, I really wanted to be a kingpin. That's what I wanted. I wanted that title. I was chasing that success, but I was chasing my addiction much more. I was more fierce and tenacious about chasing my addiction at the end.
Do you think without me being in the situation, considering your addiction, that you would ever make it to that kingpin status?
No.
Okay.
No, my addiction ruled my life.
Absolutely.
So I had this fictional character in my mind, and I wanted to obtain it, but it was unobtainable. There's only two things that selling drugs leads to: prison and death. So now having the hindsight and fortitude to see that I'm at peace now, knowing that and being okay with leaving that life. So where are you today? What are you looking forward to today? What makes you want to stay sober? And
today,
where do you want to see yourself?
Today, I'm 3 days out of prison.
Shaved head. He did boot camp.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely with the baldy. 3 days out of prison, and what makes me want to stay out? I'm tired. I'm 33 years old, and 16 years and 9 months is just over half of my life behind the wall. And I don't want to say that's the biggest thing for me. I don't want to die in there. That's definitely a factor. But losing everybody else in my life is not far away. You know, if I fuck up again, there's a lot of people that, not because they don't love me or don't care, but just don't want to deal with the emotional stress that it puts on them. And that's a big factor for me. It took me a long time to realize that my addiction and my behavior hurts other people. You know, me being in prison, I thought I was the only one hurting, the only one suffering. I was very selfish.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about the pain that my family or my loved ones go through. So
you're very fortunate to have a mother and a sister that just want to see you do well, and they do anything to support you in any positive way that they can.
I am. They're very, very resilient. You know, they've been through a lot of shit and are very supportive. So I'm truly blessed by that, and also the people that my loved ones and the people that care for me outside of my family. I have a very small support system, but the ones that are there are super influential. So I'm grateful for them also. Cool.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me and answering all these questions. We're going to film another video about prison corruption and your experience behind that wall. I just want you to know that Reese and I are here for you, and we'll continue to help you in any way that we can and encourage you. And I can't wait until you call us and say that you have a year sober, 2 years sober, 5 years sober.
Very much appreciated, girl.
Bye, you guys. I will see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay sober, do not rob anyone or steal shit, because you will go to prison. See you later.
Deuces.